largely by making them in debt to him. He manages to ban private armies, and he is, in short, more feared than loved. He leaves England in fairly good shape, though it's still weak and it's still a backwater. But Henry VIII, when Henry VIII succeeds Henry VII, things get worse, largely because Henry VIII has a huge ego, I guess, you have to say. But it's more complicated than that. He's a very complicated figure. But mistakes that he makes, particularly these two, his dynastic obsession, which leads ultimately to the Protestant Reformation, and his love of making war on the French. This is what forces both. The king ensures that future English kings will be poor, and they will have to struggle over this religious issue. Okay, so first religion. The Protestant Reformation happens quite differently in England from how it happened in Germany. In Germany, Luther wrote, and wars began. And the wars don't really end until the mid-1600s, as long as we're oversimplifying. What happens with Henry VIII is that he has this dynastic obsession. He really wants a son. Well, he doesn't get one right away. It turns out that, remember those strategic alliances that Renaissance princes make? Well, one of them was also between Ferdinand and Henry VII, were their children. Henry and Ferdinand negotiated a marriage between Henry VII's son Arthur and Catherine of Aragon, who's a daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella. Arthur dies young, and between the time of Arthur's death, or between the time of the marriage and Arthur's death, things get a lot better for Ferdinand and Isabella. They discover the New World. So Ferdinand and Isabella say, well, send her back. Right, that's okay. We can get a good price. Slightly used princess, no problem. Henry VII is too shrewd for that, and so he marries Catherine off to his next available son, who's Henry VIII. And here's where it's interesting. Henry VIII is a religious guy. He's well educated. He's sharp. He looks at this and he's concerned. He's concerned about whether or not the Bible sanctions this. The Bible is inconsistent on this issue. In some places it says you should marry your dead brother's widow. In other places it says you should not. So Henry goes to the trouble of getting a dispensation from the Pope to do this thing. And so when the marriage with Catherine does not produce any heirs, or doesn't produce a male heir, it does produce a female heir, this one, Henry believes that it's the fault of the indulgence. He thought that the dispensation from the Pope, he thought, had failed. So he has actual religious scruples here. So he asks the Pope to annul this marriage, but the Pope is not disposed to do that because the Pope at that time, in the 1530s here, is under arrest. And he's under arrest by none other than Charles V, also known as Carlos I of Spain, who is Catherine's nephew. Remember that other strategic marriage that Ferdinand produced? Well, that put Henry in a bind, and so he ultimately decides to break with Rome. And this is where the Protestant Reformation happens in England. So it's not from the bottom up, it's from the top down. It's the king who decides to do this. And Henry is hardly a Lutheran. In fact, the Pope had given him an award for being a defender of the faith, for something he'd written that was very anti-Lutheran. But he's not doctrinally drawn to Protestantism. He really wants a Catholic church. He just wants to be the Pope in England. And that's how he tries to set it up. But it turns out not to work that way. These Protestant ideas are very contagious, and they're all over the place, and they're quite common. There are lots of people in England, particularly in these middling orders, and we'll talk about hopefully shortly. So the Protestant Reformation that Henry starts quickly gets out of control. But it does give Henry what he wants, which is the right to marry as many times as he wants. And he does that a total of 6 times, ultimately producing 3 heirs and a huge mess. His family tree is in such a mess that there's really no way to determine the succession upon his death other than his will. So Henry wrote a will. He decided who was going to be king next, because there's no way to figure it out otherwise. And his will, somewhat a testament to how strong-willed he was indeed. His will carries the day. So when Henry dies, his son Edward VI becomes king. Edward VI is a much more rabid Protestant than Henry is. He starts tearing down the churches and publishing new prayer books and making all kinds of Protestant rules. But he dies young. So after Henry, England swings more Protestant. After Edward, Mary I is king, and Mary is Catholic. She's the daughter of Catherine of Aragon. So Catholicism comes back. Catherine actually goes so far as to marry Philip II of Spain. And if you've been paying really close attention, Philip's her cousin. Right? They're both grandchildren of Ferdinand and Isabel. But that doesn't matter to a Habsburg. So Mary tries to reimpose Catholicism. It's not terribly successful. The way she does it is rather ham-fisted. This is why she's usually referred to as Bloody Mary. She burns a lot of Protestants at the stake. And it's during this period when relatively large numbers of devoted Protestants flee to Geneva and learn more about Protestantism and become more radicalized in Calvin's Geneva and also in the Dutch Republic. Okay? So Mary not only fails to turn England back to Catholicism, she also sows the seeds of this Puritanism, a more extreme form of Protestantism. She dies childless. Elizabeth takes over, and Elizabeth's great accomplishment, I think, or one of Elizabeth's great accomplishments, is this religious settlement. She manages to form a religious settlement that is in many ways Catholic. It sort of looks Catholic. They still have bishops, for example. The whole hierarchy is kept. But in doctrinal terms, it's more Protestant. Elizabeth has no choice but to be a Protestant. As far as the Catholics are concerned, she's a bastard. So in order to be legitimate, she needs to be Protestant. But she shares her father's sentiments. He likes Catholicism, really. In any case, this kind of settlement holds. It works very nicely because it isolates the extremes. The Puritans who come back after Mary's death are not happy with this. They don't want to see any of these bishops. This doesn't seem like a big point today. The church governance was a huge point to the Protestants. This is one of the issues that led to schisms all over the Protestant world, and why there are so many different Protestant sects. They don't agree on stuff like that. So a couple of things are pretty important about this. First, over all this half century of toing and froing about Catholicism and Protestantism, England didn't have a war. Right? This was war. In France and in Germany, they were killing each other over this. Here there was relatively little killing each other. There were, some burnings of the stake, okay, but not an all-out war. England will have a religious war in the middle of the 16th century, but it'll go by much faster. So it's just much less war. But second, perhaps even more important, is that Parliament is involved in all of these changes. And that process makes Parliament much more powerful. Here's why. First, Parliaments are not what we sometimes think they are. I mean, there's a folklore about Parliaments coming out of the caves of these Germanic tribes. You know, it's a deep tradition of the Anglo-Saxon world. That's not the case. Parliaments are always the product of royal action. Kings made parliaments. They do that because if you're ruling, it's really handy to have the most important people in the country at hand. So when you make a decision, you tell them about it, figure out whether they're going to go along with you or not. Remember, medieval kings in particular are not that powerful. They really need the assent of the powerful nobles. So parliaments are a way of getting the powerful nobles around so you can make those decisions. It's also very handy for a king to be able to say, this decision was taken by not only myself, but by all of the nobles. So this is where parliaments come from. There's much more to them by the time we get into the 1500s, 1600s. But Henry could not have simply declared, we're all Protestants now. It wasn't possible. He needed Parliament. He needed Parliament to write some documents, and he needed Parliament to give his assent so he could sign it. And so this is what he does. And that's the same thing that Edward VI does, and the same thing that Mary does. Every time a new king wants to impose a new religion or a change in religion, they really have to go to Parliament to get it ratified. So by the time you get to Elizabeth's settlement, or in the late 15s, Parliament kind of thinks it's in charge of religion. And that's a big increase in Parliament's power. And it's one where you can sort of draw a line from there to 1688, when Parliament decides that it also is going to decide who the king is. Okay. So not only, again, the key points are that the English avoid all-out war, at least early in the Protestant Reformation, but also the process of the Protestant Reformation leads to an increase in power of Parliament. And that's a big part of England's successful model, why they're able to replace the Spanish. Okay, with the time we've got left, I would like to talk about the Hakluyt reading, which I asked you to do for today, because I think it shows lots of neat things about what's going on in England today, or England at this period. So I'm going to start with this question: what is Hakluyt afraid of? Right? And I know that we're all shy, so I'm ready. Okay. Somebody raise your hand. Yes. All right. Very excellent point. Yes. He's afraid of Spain. He's afraid of Spain because Spain is on the verge of taking control of Portugal. Between 1580 and something like 1640, Spain actually controls Portugal. And that's the two big trading empires, right? So what happens if Spain controls Portugal? Yes. Yes. I don't think that turns out to be quite so important. I'm very sorry. Doc. So, thank you. Yeah, the death of Ivan, I don't think turns out to be such an important thing. But the point is, he's afraid on England's behalf. He's really terrified of Spain becoming more powerful. I mean, this is written in 1580, right? So Spain's on the verge of taking over Portugal. The wars between Spain and England haven't quite started yet. He knows that Spain is engaged with the Dutch, but as historians, we know that Spanish finances are in much bigger trouble and that Spain's headed for decline. He doesn't see that. He's very concerned about it. Remember, England's been sitting on its hands for 100 years, while Spain has become more and more powerful. What about trade? Is he worried about trade? Did you notice that he was worried about trade? Yes, how so?
He doesn't stop mentioning these great resources, natural resources, food, timber.
Right, he's very much about food, all the cool things you can eat, all those victuals. Armies can be victualed for eternity, right? Yes. What else? Then sail. Yeah, and that's you're getting at there, yes.
All the waterways and islands are all very strategic. He's mentioning all the people want to be able to hold the stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, this is exactly right. He wants to make sure they control the trade. But there was another piece in it, and I think it goes by fast. So let me just tell you, I think he's saying that if Spain gets a hold of Portugal, they won't need to trade with England. Right? They'll have enough of an empire that they won't need to trade with us at all. They won't buy anything from us. They won't sell anything to us. And that's real mischief, according to Hakluyt. What about religion? What do you think about religion? Is he worried about the Spanish turning everyone in the New World into Catholics? No, he's not. He doesn't care about religion. I don't see any reference to it at all, right? And that's an interesting point because the Spanish do care about religion. They are the defenders at this time of Catholicism, and they're spending heavily to promote Catholicism against the Ottomans as well as against the Protestants. But Hakluyt, at least, he's not really very focused on that, right? So what's wanting England to do? What's he proposing? What's his plan? Yes. Well, thank you for being right there. Great. The Straits of Magellan. You know what Straits of Magellan are? You know? Yes. It's actually that very tip of South America. So the idea is if you wanted to go all the way to Asia, across the Atlantic, you'd have to go by the Straits of Magellan. And he talks also about St. George's Island. I can't find that. I don't know where that is. He says it's in Brazil, but he also says it's got penguins. So I think he's using the term Brazil kind of loosely. I believe it's actually very close. I think he means some island that's very close to the Straits of Magellan where you might actually find a penguin or two. Who's going to send there? Here's another crucial bit. Who's Hakluyt want to send? Criminals, yes. Criminals. Want to send criminals? Who else? Yes. Very good. The Cimarrons. Very good, very good. And pirates. He mentions a particular pirate. So pirates and it's Cimarrons and convicts. Now these are really interesting groups. These are not the people that the Spanish or the Portuguese sent, right? Spanish and the Portuguese sent armies. Right? Their idea was to send armies. He's suggesting sending leftovers, right? Convicts, right? The reason for that, I propose, is that it doesn't cost anything, right? So English kings, Elizabeth doesn't have any money. She can't afford to send the army. She's probably got a few convicts she could spare. Send them. That'll work. And these Cimarrons, they're free, right? But that brings up another point. What race are these Cimarrons? Anyone know? They're Africans. Yes, right, they're Africans. They're escaped African slaves. So let's read this passage if we can. To these Cimarrons we may add condemned Englishmen and women, in whom there will be found hope of amendment. And using policy we might enjoy those benefits as the Spaniards now do, and of many years have. But admit that we could not enjoy the same long, but that the English there would aspire to government of themselves. Yet were it better that it should be so, then that the Spaniard should, with the treasure of that country, torment all countries of Europe with wars and practices that he hath and will do, if it not be foreseen in time. But we might keep the country as well as the Spaniards do and use traffic with them. Okay, it's hard to parse all of that, but do you agree that this sounds rather almost idealistic? He's going to send convicts, he's going to send these escaped slaves, and not only are they going to prosper in the Straits of Magellan among the penguins, but they are also going to be English. And as English, they will aspire to government of themselves. This is almost the Enlightenment, but it's 200 years or 100 years too early for that. The idea here, I think, is that somehow just breathing English air, just being in the proximity of English convicts, will make, will not only make the Cimarrons English, despite the fact that they are African, but they will live together in peace, and they will govern, and they will insist eventually on governing themselves. In a sense, he is really foreseeing the future, but this racial harmony, that he doesn't realize that that's going to take until November of 2008 to accomplish. Still, I think that point is interesting, as we see next week when we talk about, well, Friday when we start talking about slavery. I'll see that it's quite interesting how these racial attitudes develop. I think we can say that they're not there exactly from the start. Okay? Thank you. Again, if you still lack a lab partner, or if you need a lab partner, congregate